What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Restoration Rundown Podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration business owner. My name is Ben. I'm your host today, and I'm also the CEO of Ironclad Restoration Marketing, where we help restoration business owners get more sales just by getting their internet marketing right. I'm very excited about today's episode. Speaking of education, if you've been listening to this long enough or watching us on YouTube, you know, education is at the forefront of everything we do for this podcast and our company. And today, we're bringing in the mavens in the restoration industry, the mavens of education, people that have been involved in this industry for over 30 years, and education is at the forefront of what they do. I want you to welcome Annissa and Kevin Coy from Firehouse Education.com. Sorry, guys. How you doing today?
Doing great.
How are you?
Great. Thank you. And if you're watching this on YouTube or even listening to this, Annissa may ring a bell if you're ever subscribed to R&R Magazine, the Ask Annissa series that's been out there for quite some time. I've been diving into that and looking at that for quite a while. And I had the pleasure of meeting you both at the last Experience Conference down in Fort Lauderdale. And it was really great to meet you both. So I really appreciate your time coming on today. I know the audience will really appreciate one, if they know who you guys are, appreciate your insight into what we're going to talk about today. And if they don't know who you are, then maybe they can climb out from under the rock that they're in and they'll get to know you a little bit after this episode. So first and foremost, I'd love for you guys to go ahead and introduce yourself. I think you can work it out who can go first, who can go second, but introduce the audience to yourself and kind of how you got going in the restoration industry.
Annissa.
Well, so I actually came into this industry from a super unique avenue. I know a lot of people come in from like the construction trades and carpet cleaning. I'm actually an accountant, for like 30 years. And
Wow.
So I was hired by a restoration company to do their books, and they were a mess, the books. And so obviously I got all the stuff done, clean all. I didn't even know at that time, that was in 2000. And I didn't even know at that time, I had no idea what the difference between, and I remember asking the owner this. So what's the difference between an agent and an adjuster? Because I'm super confused. Like I had no idea. Right. So anyway, I'm a mother of four. Now I have to totally plug. I have 7 grandkids almost now. But at the time, you know, having 4 kids, we had a content job come in and I'd been at the company like a year and a half. And I'll never forget, the owner came in and goes, you're a woman and you have kids, you know how to clean, right? Can you go out and do this content job? Like literally that was what was said. And now I laugh about it. But anyway, I went on this content job. I didn't even know what IICRC was. I had no clue. So I'd never had any training, never been on a fire, nothing. Anyway, went out and did the job, fell in love with it. I'm very, very, very passionate about helping people with their contents, because contents are their memories and
Yes.
their lives, right? And so it's very different than the sheetrock on the wall or the carpet on the flooring. So that's how I got into contents. I just really fell in love with it and just started running with it. And I started actually doing videos to educate homeowners about what they needed to expect, how I could help, you know, how they could go through these things. In 2008, I was like one of the very first people ever. I had a little flip. Do you remember those little flip camera things?
Mm-hmm.
They were like a little, I had like a flip, and I would just run around and film myself and talk about, you know, what to expect. But I was doing it to the homeowners. Well, that developed into restoration contractors started reaching out, and I started looking for education in the contents industry and realized that there wasn't any really, and there was a huge gap. So that's how Firehouse Education came to be. In 2009, we started our education, and I feel so fortunate, Benjamin, and I'm so passionate about the work that I get to do. I love it. I don't think there's any greater way that someone, especially a restoration contractor, could serve their community than by getting into contents and doing it right. Yes. So I'm sorry. I know I kind of went on there. I'm not even sure if I answered your question totally, but as you could tell, I'm very, very, I get very excited when I start talking about the content side of things. So, and that's kind of where we're at today. Now I work with my hubby and my son, and we're just out there on a mission to bring education, because that's what we feel is key and needed most.
Yeah, I agree. And not to jump in front of Kevin here, but I think that that's one of the things that I was drawn to you both being, and I really had no clue how big it was and what you guys were doing, but it's really exactly what I'm doing here, or what I really mean to do, because deep down, in whatever I do in any business, my core goal is to help somebody. So, I was tired of seeing the lack of or the abundance of the wrong knowledge that was out there for people. So it really pushes me to, do the things like writing and content generation and the videos. And I love that you started off with your video, because that's how I started my digital marketing agency, was creating helpful videos for, back then, I think it was chiropractors and doctors is how we kind of cut our teeth in the industry of marketing. And then, so, at some point we went into the restoration space 5 or 6 years ago. But not only, so you guys have a, the Firehouse Education, but you also have a restoration company, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Honey, do you want to go ahead and talk about that?
And your background, Kevin?
Well, so I came into the industry to hang out more with my wife. And so I already had a full-time career in the grocery business. And I was a meat cutter. I ran a meat department at a grocery store. And so they needed some help. It was a growing young business, and it was a friend of ours that owned it. And so I started doing some part-time water tech work, helping him out, as needed, because it was growing and it kind of fit into, the gaps in my schedule. So I went out, and on my off time, I kind of worked 7 days a week, because I was always out doing something if I wasn't working at the store. And, did a lot of demos, did a lot of dry outs, just got into mold. The thing kind of, mold. Just kind of kept growing into it. And at a point down the line, a couple of years, the gentleman that owned the business decided he didn't want to be in it anymore. He wanted to sell it. So he put it up for sale. And so Annissa was concerned, what happens if somebody buys it? Am I going to have a job? I mean, what's going to happen? And so it was for sale for, 6 months or better. And she was still concerned about that. And one day I said, well, why don't we just buy it? Because you're kind of running it already as it is. And so she just thought that was crazy.
Well, I want to interject here real quick and point out, number one, at this time I was CEO. Like, I was running the company. The owner was out. I'd been in 5 years, and I was pretty much running it anyway. But we'd been happily married for 20 years at this point. So when my ADD husband, who I'm not, like, I'm a follow through, check the list off person, wanted to go into business together, it terrified me, because I'm like, no, that scares me. So go ahead, honey.
Hey, by the way, offshoot, Kevin, me and you, ADD guys, I don't make lists. I have a lot of lists. They're just in piles of things everywhere.
Right. Never look at again.
Yeah, so, no.
We were having a conversation on the back deck one night over a glass of wine. And I said, the kids are old enough, they'll survive on their own if we don't make it. And I said, so why don't we dive into this and let's make a go of it. If it doesn't work out, then, we'll start over. But, so we made a pact, because one of the things that was important was we didn't want this to, ruin our relationship. And so we made a pact that night that after I got enough wine in her, that, we wouldn't, if things didn't go right, we would literally just like lock the door and walk away, not sell it, not, try to work it out, just lock the door and walk away, because we didn't want it to, mess up our marriage. And so under that agreement, we went ahead and made an offer and wound up buying the business. And it put us in more debt than we'd ever been in our lives. And we threw everything on the table. And 2 weeks prior to taking over this business, the project manager quit. And that was an integral part of our plan, because I wasn't actually going to come into the business. I was just going to stay over in my corporate job. So I decided, well, and he said, hey, if you want to back out, I understand. I said, you know what, I'll just come over and do it. So I thought, well, I got about 90 days to figure this out, or it's going to go one side. And so I said, this is kind of like the Pilgrims. When we came to the new world, we burnt the ships because there was no turning around. Yeah. And I had one heck of a wicked learning curve over that 90 days, because I had to learn Xactimate. I had to learn, how to deal with adjusters and homeowners. I had, a lot to do. Yeah. And I kind of had to wing it. And it was rough, but we got it figured out. And we bought a full service operation. We did everything. We bought a business in the poorest economic climate in the county we lived in the entire state of Washington. A little town of less than 2,000 population. very rural community of about 30,000 at the time.
Wow.
And so we really challenged ourselves on a lot of fronts when we did this, but I was confident that we could go out and do, and make a difference for people, when we were doing these losses, because, I'd been on enough of them to know that, this is just a traumatic experience for a lot of people.
Yes.
And, to be able to help them and kind of play superhero was a pretty cool assignment. And so we really enjoyed a lot of it. And did I answer the question?
Yeah.
And I want to interject here. So Kevin also, like, just from us living in the country and growing up, let's say at a disadvantage as far as financially goes, Kevin learned to build.
Yeah.
So he came into this with some construction knowledge. Unlike me, I knew nothing. I literally watched YouTube videos, and I did a contractor DVD series training. So I know what a roof truss was, none of that, right? So Kevin came into this with that. And I mean, bless his heart. Again, this guy is a corporate running the meat department, and he came in, hit the ground running, learned Xactimate, like it just did amazing. And it was incredible for me on this side to watch what my husband's strong suit was, which was really, he would come in to the middle of, a for lack of a better way to put this, a shitstorm, right?
Sure.
Like a massive fire, or the tree is like in the middle of the roof. Because we did everything. Like, we would move trees off roofs. We one time had a house burned to the ground in a wildfire, and we excavated the basement, like filled it all in, and moved the house site. Like, put in a septic, like did the whole thing.
New basement, new septic, ground up,
Right. So we like do all that. And so Kevin, to watch him just come into this and be like, he was the calm, because I wasn't. Like, I would come in and I had to learn this, and I would be like, oh my gosh, like there's the grandfather clock in this lady's wedding picture, and her, like, I'm freaking out. And he's like, okay, here's what we do. And he would be like the steady, and he would just start directing people, and he would get the homeowners focused, and then he would like even guide the adjuster. There was adjusters that were freaking out on some of these huge, massive losses that we've had. And he would just be like, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's a thought. And he has this like incredible, unique ability to psychologically understand the circumstance and not get freaked out by it like most people do. And so, that was something that I didn't see coming, and that I think is kind of hard to put into words sometimes, to really talk about something that is a massive, unique ability with Kevin being able to do that. So he came into it, did real good.
He did good,
and we're
Kevin.
still married, so
I mean, listen, it blows me away. And I now that when we talk, and this happens quite a bit when I'm dealing with people, that I find all these parallels with the uniqueness of your story. And I have a very similar background, growing up, in a financial hole, my whole life. And it causes you to drive. You know what it's like to want, and you know what it's like. You've been there, and you don't want to be there anymore. And you get there. So especially dealing with catastrophic property damage, having that calm sense to go in is really well, because a lot of the times with our clients anyways, and people struggle. And I think we're going to touch on this quite a bit in this episode with you guys. But where they struggle at is understanding the psychology of who they're dealing with at the end of the day, right? 100%. So you don't want to make they're already dealing with big problems, and you don't want to make them any worse. So when we look at it from a marketing perspective, on a branding play, you have to speak to them. You have to speak to that person. We talk about building your target avatar all the time. So that's a really cool story. And you guys are still operating your restoration business today in the area, right?
Actually, no.
Okay.
We stopped. I think the last job that we did on our own through our own company was in 2015, because there was just such a huge pull for the training and the education that we were kind of trying to be semi-retired. Okay. And as I said, I've almost 7 grandkids at this point, and we've been, doing this stuff for a minute. So we were kind of like, well, we're going to kind of semi-retire. We bought a place on the beach, built a new house, and then we kind of got pulled. Also, we're very passionate, so it wasn't really hard, but we had a lot of people like, hey, well, come out. We want you to do on-site and train our company, and come do this show, and come do this, speaking engagement. And so we wound up getting more and more involved. And one of the things that Kevin and I are very huge about is our time.
Yes.
Our time's our life, literally. Yep. So,
yes.
For you to even ask us to come and spend this time with you, like, that means a lot to us. And we're honored by that, Benjamin, because you're literally spending your life with us right now, as we are you. So we only spend our time on things that we're excited about, that we're passionate about, that we feel will do good out in the world. So that's why we're here talking with you today. For sure.
I appreciate that statement. That means a lot to me too. I'm honored to have you guys on. I was really excited to get to meet you already. And I spoke with Kevin a lot at the convention. So it's great. And I really appreciate your time. And I definitely understand that and agree with you wholeheartedly.
We're not getting any younger, right? And
no, I am. just mentally, it's more of like a regression.
Well, that's different, but
it's a deliberate mental regression.
Yeah.
It involves me of anyways.
So it's okay. So we got real passionate about it and excited, and so we decided to do that. But we knew we were going to have to do one. We weren't just going to spend more of our time. So we decided to stop doing it within our own company, but we do it with other companies. Like we're hired all the time. We go out and we'll go do jobs with people, training on the job site. Someone will hire us specifically to come do a hoarder pack out, or, there's we're forensically certified as well for forensic operators. So if there was any kind of, bloodborne pathogen situation, shooting, whatever, right? Like we come out and do those jobs with other companies, but it's under their umbrella. It's not under ours. We only under our company do Firehouse Education now.
So before we move into the Firehouse Education vein, I wanted to just one thing, since you guys have been there, done that. You've started from knowing nothing at all about the industry at all, throwing yourself into the fire, right? And coming out on top. You guys have won a bunch of industry accolades and awards, and I'm not sure if it was for the restoration company or for Firehouse Education. So if it's Firehouse, I definitely want to talk about them, because it's stunning when I started reading your bio and going through the questionnaire questions for this episode. But if you could give a piece of advice, like the most heavy hitting piece of advice for somebody that may be a newbie or somebody that's been in the industry a while, somebody's thinking about dipping their toes. We do see a lot of franchisees that are buying into the businesses now that have zero experience. They're accountants, they're, managers of stores, or they're very successful CEOs somewhere, but they know zip about the restoration industry and they're struggling quite a bit. So if you guys could offer up, and both of you, each of you can have your own piece of advice, just one piece of advice before we move on to, what you guys have been doing lately for the new, old, or guys thinking about getting in, guys or gals thinking about getting in the industry, what would that be?
Kevin, you want to start with that one?
Well, education is key, and understanding the big picture of this industry and how it operates. It was really unique for us. We were very unique in that we had a 100% referral based business. We did zero marketing. We had no business development people. We didn't run ads. We literally got built on referrals. And so a little bit different than a lot of people. And there, obviously there's a lot of marketing, but here's what marketing is in a nutshell. It's applied psychology. Mm-hmm. So learning how to deal with people is 85% of the process, in my opinion. So learning, having, what everybody might call collectively as soft skills.
Yes.
Is marketing and psychology. You have to understand people, and you have to understand how to talk to people and how to interact with them. And one of the biggest things is communication goes sideways in our industry all the time. And that's what gets a lot of companies in trouble. And a bigger chunk of the communication is listening.
Yes.
Listening to what people have to say. They will let you know what their concerns are and what they're worried about, what they want out of the situation, if you just listen to them. And then you can formulate your tactics and strategies around that and deliver an experience that'll knock their socks off. That's
incredible. Great insight. This is like ordering at a restaurant. Do you ever order at a restaurant, you're not quite ready and you keep pointing to each other? No, I just did this yesterday. So
I love, absolutely believe 150% in what Kevin just said.
Yeah.
one of the things that I would really like to say to anybody watching this that is either new in the industry or, and especially to those new in the industry, but it would go for anybody that's even been in for a while and maybe just feeling a little struggling, down about whatever. There's been a little narrative going on lately, or I guess that's the best way I would put it, that will say that our industry's broken, that there's fragmentation. And I don't believe that. And what I would tell you, especially right now, if you're struggling, and I don't care what that is, if you're struggling to hire people, if you're struggling to get the work, if you're struggling to, with the systems, whatever it is, get very clear as to why you're in this industry. Listen, we're really fortunate that we're in an industry with amazing profit margins. It's so easy to do very well financially in this industry, and yet not so easy.
Yeah.
And the reason I feel that people struggle on all of these fronts is because you're not clear. You're not clear on what your mission is and why you're doing this. Listen, being especially when you're dealing with contents with people, in my opinion, there is no better way to serve your fellow man than maybe being an ER doctor, where you're that guy or gal that they're running in with a gurney and praying that you know how to put their life back together and maybe even save it. That's what we do. When we come into a fire or a hurricane or whatever that is, in someone's home, all of their personal belongings, their memories, all the things precious to them that stand for what their life has been. It's almost like people feel that it's like it's what's going to be left when they're gone. So it's, they kind of wrongfully, in my opinion, but kind of look at it as like their legacy, their stuff they leave behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's terrifying. It's traumatic. It is horrible. I have seen people divorce over this. I have seen people fall apart mentally and emotionally in these circumstances, and especially when you're dealing with a wildfire. I mean, our state just got out of a state of emergency, by the way. Literally 17 miles from us has been a horrific wildfire for the last 12 days.
Wow.
You got to know why you're in this, and you got to be in this for the right reasons. You need to be in it because you want to be that hero riding in on that horse and saving the day. And you got to know how to do that. You got to be properly equipped and be really bought into that. It's not easy and it's not for everyone, but I promise you, it's some of the most rewarding work you could ever do. But you got to be real clear. And the biggest thing you got to get straight is here.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, SEO's easy. That stuff, call Ben. He'll hook you up. Like you can come to classes and get training. Like you can do all of those things. But if you don't get clear as to why you're in this industry, why you are up at 11 o'clock at night putting boards on somebody's front door that blew out in a fire, you're not going to do well, and you're going to struggle, and you're going to be stressed. So I really think that this industry is incredible. It's full of amazing people. And if you're struggling, then you need to reach out, because you got it. You're going to have to get your head on right. It's nothing external. I believe that it comes from internal. So.
Yeah, I think that was really great insight, by the way. It's something that we talk about quite a bit, and two things, so Kevin, education, communication is huge. And you're all about finding out your why. And that's so important. And we talk about this a lot because we deal with clients on a daily basis all over the United States, sometimes in Canada. We've spoken to people in Australia. And maybe you'd be surprised, maybe you wouldn't, that people just don't know why they're there. And a lot of their struggles, and especially when you hit a wall or you're dealing with an adversity and you don't really have a reason to be there. That's why, 80% of these businesses fail within the first couple of years. Maybe not the main reason, but having a why in what you do and anything in this life is paramount. It's the first fundamental foundational block. It's going to drive you to educate yourself. It's going to drive you to communicate. And the other big thing that I took away from what you said as well is you didn't say it, but you said it without saying it, is create more of a sense of community versus competition. And I can't tell you that almost every single guest we have on, this gets brought up in one way or another, because a lot of restorers out there, cleaning companies, they look at their competition versus looking at a peer that they can learn something from, have a beer with or a coffee with, and just try to figure things out. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to find that you're going to learn a lot from your peers. And that includes going to these conferences, joining your regional and national associations, and the knowledge is out there, right? If I wanted to start a restoration company, I have a construction background, but if I wanted to start one, I wouldn't just start one. I'd figure out first, why the heck am I doing this? But there's so much knowledge out there between, the big players out there, what you do, and all these different magazines that, there's no excuse. So I think it does a lot of times boil down to somebody not really having a why. Making money is not good enough. You can make money doing a lot of different things.
Get burnt out. There are people, we've literally had companies contact us, and we've done training all over Australia, Canada, and they're making like, I don't know, $8-12 million, and they're miserable. Miserable. Like, they're unhappy, they're stressed out. I mean, money's not an issue, trust me.
Right.
They are unhappy. And so that's why I don't know, I just really feel like that's it's a common denominator. We see it all, whether they're $500,000 a year and struggling to make payroll, or they're 12 million and own a yacht. Like, it's a common thing. Yeah. No,
that's great. So, now that we've got the psychology out of the way of like the reasons what we're doing here, and really it can't be overstated. You got to sit down, do this as an exercise for yourself, for your business, figure out if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? You want to do that in your life. I mean, I'm going to be 40 in the next month, and I'm still, figuring out what I want to be when I grow up, I guess. I'm kind of winging it, but yeah, I hope to always be trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up, and evolve a little bit. But you guys have turned in your, I don't want to say struggles, successes, and everything into something that's been making a major impact on the world, right? The restoration industry is a part of everything we do. Most people own homes or rent homes. If you don't, you're probably not listening to this, and it doesn't apply. But you guys started up Firehouse Education. You've won a ton of industry awards. Annissa, you're on R&R quite a bit. I dug through your 28 pages of blogs in the last couple of weeks. Just looking at what you have, and I love it. I mean, a lot of it's funny that I have almost identical videos to you for some of the topics that you talk about. And it's pretty cool. It reaffirms that I'm on the right track. If I can be a help in any little way, it really made me feel good to look at some of that stuff. But you are, very active in R&R magazine and in the industry in general. So I want you to introduce the listeners, the tens of people that may be tuning into this, to what Firehouse Education is, how that came about. And then we're gonna do some back patting for you guys, talk about the awards you've gone to maybe overqualify Firehouse Education a little bit more for people to check it out.
Well, so kind of in a nutshell, is Firehouse Education is a unique boutique high-end training company for the serious restoration contractor that wants to get into the business and or be in the business in the right way for the right reasons, that is tired of being a slave to their company, that wants to have the right systems, processes, and procedures in place, to have an amazing company culture and a business that they love and that will enable them to fund their ideal lifestyle, not just have a job, which is what often happens, right? Firehouse Education came in literally to play in 2009. To first write the first iteration of the manual. I literally locked myself in a room with my computer and didn't see anybody or answer phone calls, anything for 7 days, for a week. And that now it's again a few iterations that it's gone through, but that's still the core of the manual that we have today. In our online training, and that is our basis for our systems and processes and procedures. And that's because it really, at the core hasn't changed. Marketing hasn't changed either at the core, honestly.
No.
Marketing has been what marketing is for eons, since the beginning of time. As Kevin said, it's applied psychology, and psychology doesn't change, right? So we just saw this huge need in the industry. At the time, we were still doing physical jobs, and then in our own company. And then what I really decided was, I got asked by my coach at the time, what are you passionate about? What do you want? And I said, I want to help the world in their time of need. And Joe said to me, so can you do that? Doing a couple hundred jobs a year? I'm like, well, that's going to be really hard. Like, I could help like a couple hundred families. Well, right. Then what he said was that you're not looking at this in a big enough way. So Kevin and I went back and talked about this, and we decided that if we focused on Firehouse and launched Firehouse, that we could do a class. We do very intimate classes. So they're 12 to 15 companies. So we could work with 15 companies on a hands-on job for a week, and we could affect possibly tens of thousands of families.
Absolutely.
So that's what, Joe was teaching us as our coach at the time, which is, I would highly recommend, if you don't have coach, like in the industry, you should look at that. It was massive. And so anyway, we decided, the big factor, 10X factor, 100X factor, how could we help more people? So that's really where the passion behind Firehouse went, or came from. And today we literally love going out and teaching people and doing our job. We get very excited about it. Our son works in our business with us, which we love. He's our oldest. Funny enough, not a lot younger than you, but I was thinking about that when you said you're about to be 40. Trav's 37. And
I met him in Fort Lauderdale, right? He was with you guys in Fort Lauderdale. He's like Kevin's spitting image twin, kind of with redder beard.
Yeah. He's got a little darker beard, but still pretty gray for 37. And he's just a rock star, and he's just as passionate about all of this as we are. And did I answer your question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, listen, you have answered every question perfectly.
Great.
So far, so good. I'll do this like in the background if it's going off topic.
Gotcha.
There's so much. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows this, but you did win Outstanding Woman of the Year in 2016. And Kevin's bio and his thing, he said you win that every year, by the way. So, but you did win it with R&R. So. So you founded Firehouse Education with the premise that you want to be able to impact as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And again, I never draw another parallel and make this about myself, but that's why I do what I do. And I can't state that enough. If I didn't have a marketing agency, I would be helping people in some way, shape, or form. Every business I've ever tried to run or start, that was at the core. And it's really nice to talk to other people that are doing that, because it gives me something to aspire to in that regard. But so you've been doing it for quite a while, and I like how you said you work with serious restoration contractors. That's important, because you got to work out that why first, because you're not going to be able to help them if they don't know what they're doing. If they don't just, I just want to do this for no reason. So I thought that was great. So you guys do a lot of traveling, it sounds like, and a lot of in-person training, and you have a website, which I have scrolling on the bottom, Firehouse Education. And I agree, how important do you think it is for people to, I know you mentioned having a mentor or somebody that you can, a coach or something like that. How important are classes like yours for companies? And what, at the end of the day, are you guys trying to achieve with the clients? I mean, do you guys have different types of training? I know you have large loss and you have contents and things like that, but give me a little bit of a breakdown of what you guys bring to the table and what it really means outside of knowing why you're doing it to be a serious restoration contractor.
Kevin, you want to talk about that?
Well, so there's a lot to this industry, and I think just to kind of give a little bit of context, this industry in the U.S. On an average year is about $200 billion a year. So that's a pretty decent dollar.
Yeah, a little bit.
It attracts a lot of people because of that, and so we see a lot of people jumping into this industry when they see these events going on, these climate events that we have, and weather events that we have. Because obviously there's a lot of money involved in this, but and so that's very attractive to a lot of people. But the problem is if you're going to come into this, or any industry or any business for that matter, just because of money, it's not sustainable. Okay. What you want to do, in my opinion, is to come into this or any industry to create value. And if you create value first, the byproduct of value creation is money.
Yeah.
Okay. So learn to create value. And here's the other interesting thing about value. Value trumps price.
Yes.
All day long. If you create enough value, people do not care what the price is, because the value is in excess of the price to such a great extent. Again, we're falling back into psychology here, that it's irrelevant, because they're getting what they want, and it's at a higher value than what they're paying for. And so come at it from that angle, and I think you're going to find yourself in a whole different light in a very successful operation if you can achieve that. Now, the way you achieve that is to be consistent with your outcome. So if you want to follow, if you look at other businesses, even in other industries, you'll see that the ones that are the standouts, the category of one businesses in those industries, the ones that you think of first when you think of that industry, they've got systems, processes, and procedures in place that create consistent, productive, profitable outcomes. And you think about it in terms of building an experience for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
We have a fiduciary responsibility to care for them and look out for them. We don't have customers. Customers are transactions.
Yes.
Clients are relationships.
I love that quote. I read that on the, you're frozen a little bit. And while you reconnect, Kevin is just frozen there with a beautiful face. But while you reconnect, I came across that. I think you made a video about that, Annissa. Kevin, you froze for a minute. Welcome back. That quote you just meant that, you don't have customers, you're creating relationships. I want you guys to speak on that a little bit. I know we're going to diverge from a couple of the questions, but I do want to speak on that because that is huge.
So right. I want to bring out, just to add to what Kevin just said and answer your question. So, that's why we focus very heavily on our trainings, our coaching, and our consulting that we offer is for a wide variety of people. Like we have our membership site. I mean, it's $197 a month for training, like in-depth training on the content side, marketing side, how to handle the adjuster equipment. Like anybody can afford that, right? And then we have our higher end coaching that we do. And our obviously on-site training will come to your place and train your team and help design your facility and go through your company culture with you. Like it's sort of like a, what's that show where they come in and they do like a restaurant makeover?
Bar rescue or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like restoration rescue sometimes that we
restoration rescue. Oh.
Yeah, in the middle of that, which is cool, and then and that we're there for long-term support. What we do with our training and our teaching, including our online course and our hands-on class, is that we not only teach contents, we teach a variety, pretty much anything restoration. We kind of stay away from like the forensic cleaning stuff. That's Jeff Jones' arena that we love and would highly recommend. But anyway, you should have him, by the way, on your podcast. He'd be great.
What's the name again? I'm gonna write it down.
Jeff Jones with Bio.
Oh, yeah, Jeff. Okay, yeah. We're LinkedIn friends.
Yeah, he's awesome. So when we come into this to help those in the industry, as I said, it's a wide variety. Like I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, okay, to hire a coach or have a consultant, I got to do, $30,000, $25,000, $50,000 a year. I mean, trust me, we can do that for you. However, you don't have to get into it in that kind of level. And because there's not a magic bullet. This is not just a one and done situation. And that's why we talk about the coaching and the membership site and that ongoing training, because you have to understand that there's a process here. And what's important is to invest in that and give the time, energy, and money to it so that you do this the right way. Otherwise, you're going to be in this vicious cycle, right? Of nightmare. We've seen it a million times. Kevin, is that kind of what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, this is about creating a distinction and differentiators in your business that make you unique to your marketplace, so that you do have ability to stand out amongst your other competitors and be an obvious choice. Right. Otherwise, what I see a lot of is mimicking going on. I see a lot of people doing the same type of things, and what you're doing basically is blending in.
Yep.
If you're sticking out, you're blending in. And so if you guys are just out there creating logos and car wraps and truck wraps and doing what you see everybody else doing, then you're making the homeowner or the potential client have a tough time choosing somebody. Yes. You've got to have a distinction or a differentiator that makes them go, oh, this resonates with me. That's the company I need to pick. They're going to take care of me. And so building that, I mean, we do contents training, we do fire training, we do, coaching on marketing and helping people build businesses, because there's a lot of things that you have to understand and have skill sets in to operate any business. And a lot of people don't come to the table with those. And so you have to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses. And then the coaching is where it comes in when you need help with, for instance, a lot of people don't understand accounting and bookkeeping in their businesses. They can't tell you what their profit margins are. They can tell you gross revenue. Sure. That's the number, and that's the one that's impressive. But at the end of the day, it's irrelevant because it doesn't really mean anything. You can do millions of dollars a year in revenue and be broke. So that's really not a measuring stick. What we need is the ability to understand our accounting and billing and costing, so that we know that our margins are profitable and sustainable for what we're trying to do. Another thing that people do, and we're going to be putting on a quick seminar at the Experience next week called Marketing for People That Hate Marketing. Last time we did this was a few years ago, and it was standing room only. And so it was really interesting, but people don't understand marketing, and they don't understand the importance of marketing and how much importance they should be placing on their marketing. And so they struggle with it. And so and this is why you're in business, because you help them with marketing. And so what happens is a lot of these companies wind up becoming beholden to other companies to help them with their marketing, and they don't like the circumstances they're in with the marketing, or they don't know how to take a lead from an SEO coming in on them and know how to close it, because again, marketing, psychology. And so there's things that people don't know, and they need to have coaching and consulting services to help them get better at it if they want to become independent and be able to do it on their own and not have to rely on other companies and then complain about the results.
Yeah, our favorite clients, to just jump in, our favorite clients are people that have coaches that have been through a course like yours, that know what it is. So we're more in a digital marketing space, so we're going to get you out there. But you touched on a couple fundamental marketing things that people don't usually get when they're starting these businesses or running a business: who you're selling to, and then what's making you different. How are you resonating with that person? And until you know who you're selling to, you're not going to know how to talk to them and how to deal with them and how to present your website that'll resonate, that'll make you stand apart. So our favorite clients are ones that know the deal. They know what needs to be done. They understand what the metrics are and the KPIs are, and we're able to come in and provide a service for them that they already know what the expected outcome is going to be, because they're not all home runs. You cannot control Google. You can't control water damage happening to people's homes, but what you can control is the messaging and the brand and putting them out there and getting the billboard in front of as many people as possible. So we love it when our clients are involved in these types of programs. Even if it was a digital marketing guru they were paying, at least they're empowered with the education to know what it's supposed to look like. That's why, when I wrote my book, the reason I write it and update it all the time is just because this is how you can do it yourself. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of training, but it can be done. And I love it when people do that. But the best, I guess, are the ones that come in from that are just seasoned, that have been burned maybe a few times, and they understand what it looks like. The worst clients, and I'll put it out there, and we'll probably cut this up into a clip, but the worst clients that we can think of are people that are looking to us like the savior of their company.
Yes.
They don't have the right processes in place. Yeah, they're not. I mean, I'm Ben Cano. I'm Ben, right? They don't have systems. They don't have processes. They don't know who they're selling to. They know that they have a truck. They know they've got employees. They know they need to keep them busy, and they're selling, and they're they're trying to talk to plumbers, and they're like, well, let's turn on a switch and get to number one on Google for every category in our industry, and that's going to solve all our problems. And in some cases, sales does solve all, but if you don't have those processes, like Kevin said, and Annissa has alluded to this, if you don't have the proper systems in place, you're blending in, you're going to make anybody's job, you're setting them up for failure. And especially most of those people have mismanaged expectations. They've got marketing companies calling them 50 times a day saying, hey, your website is terrible. Look at all these errors. We're going to get you to number one. And they're like, all right, $200 a month. Hell yeah. And they don't realize it's just not the way. So we love education and empowerment. It's one of the reasons I was compelled to just reach out to you and guys from Head, Heart, and Boots that we talk to all the time, just to educate the industry a little bit about this, because it makes our lives a lot easier.
And Ben, something I got to say this, you just hit the nail on the head and it was so good. And by the way, that's why after like you and Kevin spent so much time in Florida talking, Kevin's like, oh my gosh, we have to go talk to this guy. Like it was just very exciting to hear you as that marketing person talk the way that you are, wanting your clients educated and set up right. You know, these guys, here's the deal. You could go get somebody number one at Google and every service that they offer. We literally have had clients that were like in that position, but they were sucking at then taking care of them on the back end. They were getting all the business that they needed, but they were failing miserably.
Yes.
Because if you get them, if they don't have their act together and you get them all this work, it's actually, in our opinion, worse than if the phone wasn't ringing and at least you didn't have a reputation, but at least you didn't have a bad one.
Yeah.
Like it's right. Like it's so huge. And that's where a little bit of investment in that training and the coaching and getting your mindset right will make services that like Ben's doing worth it for you to invest in. You're just going to hand over money and not have your head on right. I don't care how good your SEO guy, marketing, or your coach is, you're not going to get anywhere. So at the end of the day, you know, maybe one of the things I would also have to add in there was saying with somebody new to coming in the industry or been here and is anybody having struggles is you gotta look in the mirror, my friend. Look in the mirror. It starts with you. If you cannot find, I know this is going to maybe be a little controversial, but if you can't find enough employees or good employees, go look in the mirror. Ask yourself why. How's your company culture? If your phone's not ringing, go look at your client experience.
Yes.
What are people experiencing with you? Because I'll guarantee you they're telling the community about it. So start asking your clients. Like it all starts with you as the business owner. So you got to.
I know we started talking about there not being a magic bullet to success, and I think there is. It's education.
Oh yeah,
right. I mean, it really is, because I mean it's such a generic way to put it, but it really is true.
The nuanced business. If you don't understand the nuancing, that's fine tuning of it, and you know, I think when people market, their market is everybody, and that's a bad idea. You're shotgun marketing. You're just like, somebody call me, I need a job. That's that desperation mode that you don't want to be in. You need to be not selling yourself, but if you can get yourself in the right positioning in your market, you can be the buyer. And when
find a niche.
Buyer, sorry.
I'm sorry. You mean, if you talk about systems, and just to touch on what you said, Kevin, it's everybody wants, do anything, property damage. How are you going to create systems for everything?
Right.
You need to what are the big three? Water, fire, mold. You can create systems. Here's our onboarding process. Here's how you answer the phone. Understand that every single person wearing this company's shirt is a salesperson for my company, creating this customer experience. It's so true that you do need to just kind of narrow your focus, educate yourself on first. I mean, again, we're going back into the psychology. Why are you doing this in the first place? Right. And then look into who you're going to connect to figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah, you need to. That's back to your why and what it is you want to do. And here's the thing. Not everybody is your client, nor should they be.
No,
because you will find yourself with people that you wish you hadn't, and you would spend double what you thought you were going to make to get away from, because that's just not the way you want to do business. What you want to do is put out there exactly what you're about, be transparent and open about what you can and can't do for people. And if it resonate with people, it's a filter that you can put in that will draw and bring to you right fit clients, and also repel wrong fit clients. And so that you will get a good client base that appreciates what you do, sees the value in what you do, and be happy to pay you without an argument.
Yeah. You know, I got to say this because I just found this to be so funny. There's so much conversation sometimes about people and their wraps on their vehicles. Like it's like a big thing in the restoration industry. It's so funny. And you want to know what's really funny? We've been all over the world training. Do you know that 90% of the rigs literally all look the same? They all got water on them. They all got some flames. They all got some green for mold. Literally. Like right? Like our mobile clean unit, I don't know if you've ever seen the video and pictures of it that I've got, but like it was 34 feet long. And you know what was on it? The American flag. Like our unit our wrap stood out. So we would be driving down the highway across Utah or Montana. People would literally pull up alongside us, rolling down their windows and waving at us and putting their hands over their hearts, honking as they go, because it stood out that much, right?
Yeah.
And so what's funny though, like what I want you to get, if you get nothing else out of just this conversation that we've had, if you're watching this, is it doesn't matter. I don't care. Obviously, don't show up without a vehicle, without some kind of logo on it. Okay. But right now for this conversation, just stop thinking about it. I don't care what your wrap is. I've never had somebody who's gone through this traumatic experience of a fire loss to go, oh my gosh, I just got to tell you, it was so huge in my experience that your truck's wrapped in green, or, you know what I mean? Like they don't care. In fact, most of them don't care, don't have any clue who ICRC is. So don't make your uniform about having a bunch of badges on the arm either, saying all of your certifications. Okay. That's not it. And I've literally seen companies just roll up in the coolest rags. And then I watch their client onboarding. And they never once ask their client some of the most important questions you need to ask them. Never let them go back through the experience and tell their story. And they just miss it. And I'm like, you just spent $30,000 wrapping all your rigs that are in that driveway. And you literally could cost you nothing. Could have just done the most important step of marketing, which is relation. And you know, Maya Angelou said it the best. I love this quote. It's one of my favorite. And she says, you know, people will forget what you said, and they will forget what you did, but they will never, ever forget how you made them feel. So you need to remember that when you're out there. Yes, can rolling up with your nice wrapped rig make them feel good? You bet. But if you can't step out of that nice wrapped rig and keep delivering on that feeling and that client experience and build a relationship with them where they know you care about them and that what's important to them matters to you, you're wasting your money on the SEO, the wrap, and everything else. Okay.
Yeah. And I think just to piggyback on that, I know what you're saying. She's not saying don't go wrap your cars, because
no.
Look, you know, it's a branding play. It looks good. Nobody wants some rundown old vehicle pulling up to their home, especially you could think about it. You have a large lost fire and you found some company on Google, because they're not here. You're not going to be driving down the road and be like, oh, you know what? My house is burnt down. Look at that guy's wrap. Let's call him up.
Right.
No, at the point that you're pulling into their yard, they've already pre-qualified you to some extent, or you've pre-qualified via the website. And it is important. But if you are solely, and there's a large majority of you guys out there that are listening to this probably driving down some cool ass truck right now. But if you have invested all that time into your logo and your branding and all that stuff, and your company doesn't match that beautiful logo and the branding and everything you've done, then that like you said, throw it in the trash, because you're going to be driving around this cool looking truck, and you're probably going to be switching what your company does for a living in not too distant future. So it is important. We're in Florida. We're getting hurricane. We got one coming to us right now. We're all stocking up on beer and stuff to have our hurricane parties, and all the people from New York and the Northeast that moved down are freaking out and wanting to move home. But it does help if you're in a place that does get big storms. You know, having your vehicle pulled up, that's probably one of the only times people are going to look at your vehicle wrap and say, hey, those guys look legit. They're doing a good job. Let's call them and that's in a neighborhood. But in general terms, I can't agree with you more. We deal with it on a digital marketing side. We'll put it in perspective. If they call us and they say, hey, we want to we're number one on Google for everything, and our marketing company stinks, they're not getting us calls, and you go and look on their website's amazing and great and all this stuff, but you go to call their phone and they don't even have a voicemail set up. Mm-hmm. They're not answering their phone during their 24-hour emergency service, and you can't get someone on the phone. Yeah. We've even had clients in our early time, we'd sit down in a face-to-face with maybe a local client, not going to say any names, but they were complaining. We did a great job from a marketing perspective. We did what we could. Number one on Google for their core services and all their services and cities. You know, we did what we set out to do. Sit down with them for a come to Jesus meeting, and they said, listen, we're not getting any calls. This isn't working. And we're saying, well, the analytics say different. You have so much organic traffic. Your ads are performing. What's going on? we're not getting any calls. We're not getting any calls. We're not getting any calls. So my guy I was in a meeting with, one of my partners here, picked up the phone and called them while I didn't even know they were doing this. And in the middle of a conversation, put it on speakerphone, and it was going right to voicemail saying they were closed. And this guy's phone didn't ring because he did it. He held up his phone and says, my phone's not ringing now. This is the middle of hurricane season. I'm not getting any calls. And my guy put his phone up and the guy's face just turned white and was like, they forgot to turn my voicemail over to my phone or something like that. So, if you don't have those systems in place, don't waste your time on the brand. It's nice to think about, and they do look cool driving on the road. But in general, go right back to the very beginning. What we said, the genesis is, why are you doing this? Who are you trying to work with? Right. And that goes back to the why, and then resonate with them. Right. If you're chasing storms in Florida, then it makes sense to have a really cool looking truck, but you got to have your processes in place first to create that customer experience, or you're going to be doing one storm season and that's it.
Right. Let me hammer this home on brand, since this is kind of what we're banging around on. For most of us in this industry, we don't have the budget or the ability to image brand ourselves. Okay. We'd love to be able to, have somebody say, well, what's your favorite macaroni and cheese? And everybody would go, oh, Kraft, because that's a big image brand. And they spend a lot of money making that stick in your head. Now, the reason I know how to spell baloney is I grew up singing the Oscar Mayer song.
Oh, yeah.
So I know how to spell baloney. So
I grew up eating a lot of bologna too.
Yeah, that's the power of having that kind of budget and being able to be an image branding company. Most of us don't have that. So here's brand, and everybody can write this down. Here's brand for us every day. What do people say about you after you walk out of the room? That's your brand. And if you can get, and if you're remarkable enough that they want to talk about you, there's two ways to be remarkable: remarkably great and remarkably bad. Okay, that's when they're going to talk about you. Obviously, you want to be the earlier, not the latter. But if we have an experience that we can create, that we can orchestrate consistent outcomes, job after job, and you do it well, your brand will grow organically, and people will talk about you, and that will be the best way for you to gain business and take market share in your marketplace, is simply by referral. Most powerful way and most inexpensive way to gain market share.
Yep. That's why Google reviews are important, right? I know Annissa's had a video there. You can talk about yourself till you're blue in the face, but until somebody else says it, nobody's going to believe you.
I think that's far more believable.
Yeah. We a little bit more, right? So, Google's getting a little better, I guess, at filtering out the bad ones or worse, or I don't know. It changes every day. Listen, I know that you guys have a lot going on. Listen, we're trading lives right now, as Annissa said earlier. You guys are going to be at the Experience Convention in Las Vegas on the 5th of September, I think it is. Yeah. And you're holding a masterclass, a pack out masterclass there. What day are you guys doing that? On the 5th of September?
Yeah, that's going to be Tuesday. The event's the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And so we're the pre-workshop on the 5th. And it's going to be awesome. It's 7 packed hours with lunch included. Wow. And you're not going to be sitting. If you want to sit in a workshop or a class and fall asleep to a PowerPoint, do not sign up for this, because you're going to be physically packing iPad inventory. You're going to be doing this stuff. And we're also going to go over the billing of it as well, so that, you know how to bill it out, make sure you're getting paid right. So yeah, it'll be really awesome. And we're also covering hard contents as well as soft goods.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And the experience is awesome. We got a chance to, I held a class in the Experience in Fort Lauderdale. We're not going to make it this year, but we will be out there in Vegas next year. Yeah, we can't. I've got another. I'll be in Texas this week at the Collective. So going to meet some people there and actually put some faces to names of people I've had on the show and talked to. So I'm excited about that. We just, it turned out that 2 of my team members are going to be out of the country the week of the Experience. So we'll be watching from the sidelines this year. But anyways, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, go on YouTube if you're just streaming this and check it out. I put all your links in there to Firehouse Education. Go to R&R Magazine, R&R Mag Online, and check out the Ask Annissa segment. Go to their website, firehouseeducation.com. There's a ton of knowledge in there. Look, they have courses for people that are do-it-yourselfers, right? If you want to go on self-motivated, you can go on there and you can learn a lot of this stuff yourself. But I think it's invaluable having, experts like yourselves offer hands-on training, having a coach there that you can bounce ideas off, people that have been there, done that from start to finish. is just something that's huge. And if you're not, utilizing some sort of coaching or some sort of course like this, we do it here with digital marketing. I've got a ton. We're always learning something here so we can better serve our clients. I loved everything you guys had to say, everything you brought to the table. I'm really looking forward to the next time I have you guys on. We could take a little deeper dive into some of this stuff and talk about some really big problems that are happening in the industry and how Firehouse is solving them. And we'll get into the psychology, guys. I had a great time getting to know you a little bit more than the busy day that we met down in Fort Lauderdale. And I really appreciate your time. If that's it for you guys, anything else you want to share with the audience? That you guys got award-winning, by the way, if you are going to the experience, you have like award-winning entrepreneurs of the year doing this masterclass on Pack Out. So I implore you, go check it out. It's a cool event.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for having us. The last thing I'd like to say to everybody is, we truly are passionate about education in this industry. And it solves so many problems for everyone. And I just really want to point out that, I've got almost 400 videos on our YouTube channel and tons of free. If maybe you're struggling right now, I don't know. Maybe you're just like, well, I don't know if I want to get my credit card out for these people because, I don't know. Fine, don't do that. There's so much you could sit, and I've had people who were brand new to the industry call up and be like, "Oh my gosh, we got to do your class now with you because I just binge watched for 6 hours yesterday. Didn't get to sleep till 2 o'clock in the morning. Your YouTube channel and learned so much. I have 3 pages of notes, right?" So please go on the YouTube channel. There is free, really great, good information on there that we have put out to help people. And, if you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out in an email or call us on the phone, because we're also happy to help you there. We're not about just transactions. So, And I really want to thank you, Benjamin. What you're doing in this industry is just amazing, and we love, keep up that good work of educating people about what they need to know about their SEO and Google. And then, yes, once you get their phone ringing, they got to do something about it. So
absolutely. Guys, I can't thank you enough for your time. I think that's
ours.
No, it's ours. We can argue about whose pleasure it is the most out of this. I think people will start to get bored, but we can go off air. But listen, no, I can't express how much I appreciate you guys coming on. I know that everybody listening to this is going to get a ton of value. Again, firehouseeducation.com. Follow them on social media. Check out their YouTube videos. They're just like me. I've got hundreds of them too. And you're free. Go get it. Get my book. I'm giving it away on my website for free, or you can go buy it if you want to give me a couple bucks. Either way, education's at the forefront, guys. I implore you to check these guys out. Kevin, Annissa, thank you so much for your time today. We will be looking forward to talking to you guys very soon once the experience wraps up.
Super.
Thanks.